What is up, everyone? Welcome to the L2R2 PlayStation Podcast. My name is Fonzie. I'm joined by my co-host from across the pond, my brother from another mum, Callum Monroe. Callum, how the heck have you been?
I've been very well. It's actually quite nice how it's dark, or you can see it's dark because it shows that we are indeed across the pond, the
Yep.
cosmic pond, where it is dark here, and I assume light where you are. I don't know in these apocalyptic days whether I can even assume that anymore.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, the Earth's flat, so it should be dark for me too, but otherwise, but yeah, it's a foggy Pacific Northwest day over here.
Nice. Did you get affected by the red? Did you have the red stuff that came
What do
over
you,
from Canada?
what do you mean the
Or
red
the
stuff?
do you have
It's
like
like a
the
new
red
drug?
skies? Or maybe, I don't know. But there wasn't there like a some kind of fire in Canada and it like spread
Oh,
over to um
we, yeah, we
that's
get those.
was that more northeastern, the one recently? I can't remember, but there was one in it that looked really
There,
scary.
yeah, we haven't had one like in the past couple months, but every summer there's always a crazy wildfire there. Wildfire, it's either Oregon or it's Canada because it's all just forest basically over there. It's like 90% forest.
Mm.
So inevitably they always light on fire, and it's like Blade Runner, the sequel, where they're, if you've ever watched that, it's just thick, yellow
Yeah.
smoke. It usually happens for a good month basically every summer. Climate change is wild because now you can count on it every month, when before, when I was a
Yeah.
kid, that never happened that
Yeah.
often. But yeah, it sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember seeing photos and it was very like Blade Runner actually, like that
Hmm.
kind of filter over everything. Which is yeah, quite scary. I mean we just stay grey over here.
Gotcha.
And then maybe, I wouldn't say that England has the worst summers, but it's definitely mostly grey and bleak in England. Jolly old England.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the Pacific Northwest too. It's like we're used to that rainy, just like, yeah,
Yeah.
just wearing boots all the time and whatever, listening to punk rock and just drinking coffee. So like, I feel
Yeah.
like it's the similar kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Wearing some
Yeah.
Doc Martens over there.
Yeah.
Nice, Cal. Well, how you been these past 2 weeks?
Yeah, good. Been quite lazy actually. Been still just struggling with return to life after Christmas, the Christmas break.
Mm-hmm.
But getting there slowly. Just yeah, trying to start exercising more and doing things. But yeah, the past 2 weeks has kind of been the bit before I do all of that. It's kind of the bit where I'm being like extra lazy. And hopefully it will actually result in me not doing that, but we'll soon find out. Back to work tomorrow, so that should be the kick up the arse I
Yep.
need.
Yep, I hear you. Yeah, I'm in the same boat trying to get, because always, first of the year, like it brings me back into the trying to just get more active and get to the gym more. And
Mm,
my wife's been like going every day, and so it's constantly like weighing on me where it's like I need to go with her. She's been doing it, and it's and kicking ass. And but you're training kickboxing, was it, for a while, right?
I was,
Are you
yeah.
still into that?
Yeah, no, well, since I moved to Brighton, I stopped doing it, and I've tried sort of here and there little other different things, but mainly haven't really been doing anything. I play football with work people every week, and but yeah, so I just need to get back into the groove. Of something I always need like a schedule, almost like a class to go to. I'm not very good at doing it all myself. I need to kind of go and have something set just so I can go turn up, do it, and then that's my exercise done. Then I can go back to eating everything I want.
Yeah.
I don't have to think about it too much, just turn up, get told what to do, go home, and there you go. But I mean, I do enjoy the doing of it. But yeah, it's just the kind of the making time for it, scheduling it yourself. I just like to turn up and do it.
Were you teaching it too? Did I remember that correctly at some
Yeah,
point?
there were a couple of times if the seafood could make it, I would take a class, which was good fun.
Could you roll that into, as you go to the studios and you're helping people in person, can you just like organize a kickboxing class and teach them how to do it? And there you go.
Yeah, I mean, funnily enough, there was a couple of guys from work who we did do a little thing a couple of years ago, where I sort of went up to these little gardens in Brighton and did a little session with them because they're both into sort of martial arts and things anyway. So, but yeah, other than that, it's just been me being extraordinarily lazy. Um, but yeah, but yeah, it's good because it means I can play games, which is always nice.
Yeah, that's true. That's the silver lining, I guess, with that, with being lazy.
Yes,
Nice. Well,
yes.
what you been playing?
Um, I have been playing some Remnant 2, which I think I'm
Hmm.
pretty much done with now. Playing that with a friend, and I beat it and sort of got to that point where you're like, I could now keep playing it and try and get everything or whatever, but I think I'm just going to leave it because there's just so many other games. I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3
Oh,
steadily, which is incredible. Um, really, really enjoying that. And also a little bit, I know, same as you, of Gravity Rush as well, which I was actually playing today just before I came on here. Um, so yeah, other than that, I think I've probably brought up many times before, but I'm re-addicted to Football Manager. So I've been
okay, yeah.
doing that a lot as well, which is just the most consuming game I've ever played. It just will forever be able to consume me, I think.
And you're like managing the team and all the different, aspects of
Yeah,
a football team.
it's like a new life. It's like a fake life, a fake world, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing.
Interesting, interesting. And then Baldur's Gate 3, that's a game that, man, I want to get into. I need to.
Mm.
And that's coming around my corner soon where it's like one of these days I'm just gonna start playing it, download it. But how are you liking it? I don't know if you talked about that last time.
Yeah, I mean, we probably talked about it before because I played it when it came out. Was it like
Oh, right,
three
the early
years ago
access.
now? The early access, and I played it then and really enjoyed it then, even though it was obviously very broken and much changed now as well. I think I'm starting to realize. But yeah, it's really, really amazing. I mean, obviously, I know everyone's been sort of saying the same things about it, but yeah, it's one of those where you just really have to play it. So it's a very personal game. Like, it feels very personal to you and your character you've created,
Right.
and um, it's one of those games that it lends well to play it really slowly and just really like take it in and really take time to explore and read and pick up lots of things and just examine them and read all the books and notes and things you find is a lot of sort of storytelling that can be missed. But if you take it slowly, it really sucks you in. But yeah, it's really, really great. And I like CRPGs. I never really have a tendency to finish them, so I'm hoping this one I will finish. But yeah, steadily been playing through that, and it is can't recommend it enough. It's very, very good.
Yep, it's on my list, man. It's on my list. I got to try that. You know what I did play a little bit of, and it was just to kind of it was along with the not the controversy, but the conversation was happening online. But I jumped into Pow World, which is on Xbox Game Pass.
Yeah.
Have you been following some of the all the stuff in the news? It's been the past week or so. It's only been a week that it's actually been officially out, or at least it's early access now. I think technically they sold. I just checked today; they're at 8 million copies sold. That's just on Steam. It's on Game Pass, so it's like this game is nuts.
Yeah.
Crazy successful. I played a bit, and it's not for me. It's just kind of like a janky like just a weird like survival kind of crafting game, but a lot of people are actually really positive on it. And then there's a whole copying, controversy too. But what do you think about Power World?
Yeah, I haven't played it, but yeah, I've sort of had to, I guess, be exposed to the things that are being said about it, and yeah, sounds like it sounds similar to a few different things, but yeah, there's an interesting conversations around it, especially around the kind of designs of the creatures. Um, but yeah, it seems to have blown up. I don't think I'll ever play it, but I guess it's cool that people are enjoying it. But I also don't know whether a lot of this is from the kind of conversation around it making people want to go in and check it out. But because I hadn't heard about it until the kind of drama about it, I had no
Mm.
idea it even existed. Um, and I like to think I'm fairly kept up on games and what's coming out, so I'd assume that there'd be a lot of people in the same boat. So I'm not really sure where it came from or how it's been able to kind of just do so well. But yeah,
Yeah,
fair
I
play.
remember. this was back before we ended the pod with when the side one I do with my buddy Gavin, we had covered it because there was an initial like announcement, CGI reveal,
Mm.
concept trailer, and it's like, oh, this is Pokemon with guns. So this is 2 years ago, whatever, and then finally they're out in early access, and it is that, and
Yeah.
it's just interesting to see all the controversy with the character models and how, in my mind, they're a hell of a lot close to Pokemon. It's like you gotta there's something there. It's weird, but I guess they have some wiggle room. It's just like I'm already kind of negative on that side of things, and then the gameplay itself is just kind of like if you mixed somewhat of the Zelda Breath of the Wild with like a Minecraft with a Fortnite kind of thing. It's like it seems like they're as a dev they're trying to just go with whatever's popular, merge it together, and I guess they've found success doing it. It's just there's no soul there for me. Like there's no actual unique thing there for me. It's not really fun, but
Yeah.
I'm surprised with going on Twitter. It's like people are actually the people are digging it are really digging it.
Mm. Yeah, it's like you said, it's not like it does any of those things better, I guess. It's just unique in that those things are blended together for the first time, which I guess, and like you said, it's all the most popular possible things that have all been stitched together. So it's almost like just like a neuron scratch for like the most basic kind of
Yeah.
itch that people have, I guess, which obviously works. But um, yeah, I kind of put it there with like Roblox. That's another game that like does ridiculously well, and I just have no idea. The only time I saw it was recently, and it was horrifying looking. So there's definitely a space of games that I do not understand or am aware of.
Yeah, it's weird, but it's happening and it's selling so many copies, and I am interested to see because there's the connection to Pokemon, which a lot of the characters seem to be based off of, and the Pokemon company, I forget the actual legitimate name, but they put out because it's a side thing from Nintendo. They put out a response saying that they're looking into it and they're aware of this. They don't reference it specifically, but it
Mm.
seems like, especially with Nintendo, they're very litigious where it's like they'll take down anything, no warning. The fact that they put out some kind of response makes me think maybe they don't have a case and they're just like having some kind of public response to the game
Yeah,
itself. But it's
they, they
interesting.
probably they probably already knew about it as well,
Oh yeah.
way before this. So I think unless they're kind of waiting to see just how well it does, but yeah, I don't know. I think there's lots of games that I don't know, maybe not copy Pokemon in this way, but yeah, it's a tricky one. I mean, Pokemon's not really something I'm massively familiar with. I liked the cartoon when I was younger, and I
Yep.
played like some of the earlier games. But so I don't know. I don't. It's difficult for me to look at it and really be able to have that passion to sort of say like, oh my god, that looks exactly like this creature from Pokemon. When I honestly would look at them both and just I wouldn't even know which one was Pokemon, which one was Power World to start with. So I'm just not qualified enough to know how bad it is.
And it's something I've been thinking about recently. I'm not a lawyer. I know nothing about how the law works, but if you're a company, like especially a huge company, say like Nintendo, you have this other group, possibly you have a case where they're infringing on your copyrighted material. Do you wait? Is it to benefit you to wait to let them sell X amount of copies, become successful, have a lot of money that you can see in the bank? Would you wait to sue them then to then maybe, so if you take them to court, it's like you could actually benefit from them selling these copies, or would
Mm.
you want to nip it in the bud early on? I don't know how that works, but I wonder if Nintendo. That's why, like in the days that were like they're announcing, oh, we've sold 5 million, 6 million, 7 million. I was wondering, was Nintendo just waiting for them to actually make some good money, and then okay, now we're going to sue you? But I don't know how that works.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I guess if that would mean that they could potentially get a stronger case or make more money, then I guess they probably would want to do that. But like you said, I don't even have the slightest idea of the pros and cons of doing either way. But I would assume that there is definitely at least an argument for why they would do that.
Mm,
But yeah, I'm not 100% sure.
no, me either. And yeah, good luck to the people over at Pal World, and we'll see if they get sued or they sail on to the sunset and keep making it. And it's weird. We're maybe on the cusp of a whole new juggernaut thing that battles against Fortnite and like Call of Duty. We'll
Mm.
see if that becomes like its own huge
Yeah,
success.
and weirdly as well. I mean, it's so largely played, but I don't see anything. The only thing I see about it is the conversations like this. I don't see. I don't think I've even seen gameplay for it. And for a game to be that big and that in like the kind of mainstream things that us as weird zombie people who look at our phones, look at Twitter and things. I haven't seen a single thing, so it's a weird game. I don't know. It's difficult to even know if it's going to take off because I haven't even seen what it looks like outside the kind of side to side photos and the weird creatures that apparently look like other things.
Now in my feed, I do get, and it's weird, I do get a lot of, at least it's Twitter suggesting like different accounts. Also, side note, I refuse to call it X. I'll never call it. It's Twitter.
Yeah, yeah,
let's stop doing that. But I'll see these different opinions and people who are like, they're very positive on it. But what's interesting is tied to this is and maybe it's a troll thing with gamers out there, but there seems to be this reaction when the industry itself, like the games industry, the media outlets, when they feel negative on a property, then it seems like gamers, at least the negative ones, excuse me, they'll end up gravitating towards it as like an anti-response. So as Palworld gets trashed, they seem to be like, okay, well now I want to try this, I want to play it. It's very interesting, and it's also tied to, if you've been following the Suicide Squad Justice League game that's coming out soon, there's been a lot of conversation just in the past couple of days with these media outlets not getting review copies early, and so they've been vocal about it. And then you'll see gamers in the responses tweeting back saying like, that's what you get for covering this game negatively, and media outlets should think about how they talk about a game. And it's weird that these gamers will they'll defend these companies that don't care about them when it's these media outlets that are just trying to like review something and tell you. And you should be weary of media outlets too. It's just like strange to see these gamers, like when something is being trashed on, then they go harder into it. It's very weird.
Yeah, gamers are weird
Yeah.
creatures.
Yeah, it's like one subsect of, actual, like the full population of people that play games. It's just the ones that are vocal on Twitter, and it's 90%, I'm sure, trolls. It's just really interesting to see that.
Yeah, it's just the same as all the weird like console patriots and things like that where they just like live and die by the box that they play their games on, which I think everyone like you said, it's obviously a vocal minority. I think most people quite easily are aware that it's psychotic the way that these people act online. Which is why you people say it must be spam or something, because surely no one can actually want to apply their time this way, but clearly some people do.
Now, I wanted to touch on that Suicide Squad game. I don't know if you're at all interested in it, and really in the context of, did you play those original Batman games, the Arkham games from Rocksteady? Were you a fan of those, and how do you feel about this kind of different direction for their next game?
Yeah, I played the first one and really, really liked it. And then I think when the second one came out, it was kind of, I played Arkham Asylum quite late as well. So by the time I finished it, City was already out. But I think I played a lot of Asylum. Like I went back, did all the collectibles and everything on it when I finally played through it. And then I sort of knew City was like open world, and I was just like, I can't be asked. I can't be bothered with something open. I really liked the way Arkham Asylum was like really cleverly designed, and people refer to it like almost like a Metroidvania kind of game, which I can understand. And so yeah, I really liked the first one, but never really played any of the others.
Gotcha, because it's interesting to see the fans of those, because there's a huge fan base for those core games, and they really revolutionize just like this combat mechanics and making you feel like this walking tank, like Batman, and then for them to make this live service Fortnite-y kind of ridiculous game.
It's very different.
Yeah. And do you think you'll have any interest in playing this? Is this just something that's just like not up your alley?
No. I think I probably wouldn't have played it anyway, even if it did stick to that for me. I'm not the biggest fan of like DC comics and their characters. Not for any other reason. I just never really got into them, so I don't know them as intimately as maybe other universes. So I kind of automatically feel like I'm not who it's for. But yeah, I think after the gameplay reveal came out and I saw that, each to their own, and I know some people like those kinds of games, but yeah, it was away from what I even expected it to be. So I probably wouldn't have played it anyway. But yeah, it also doesn't look as good as maybe I was hoping it might. But again, I could be completely wrong. But we'll see very soon.
Yeah, it comes out officially. It's officially this Friday coming up, but I think it's
Mm.
like if you pre-ordered, you can start playing Monday. So we're gonna see some in-depth, impressions here in the week. It's just one of those games also that's has all this hype behind it, but then as it gets close to release, we got no impressions. And usually in this world, it doesn't bode well. But also, it's not the end of the world. Like sometimes you're still going to get a game that's like reviewing
Yeah.
8s, 9s, but they just had an embargo so close to it. It's just also doesn't point in the right direction when a game
Yeah.
does this. But we will see.
The screenshot of the HUD as well was I
Have you
still
seen
don't
that?
know
Yeah.
if that's real. Like
Yeah.
I just don't I don't even want to say anything about it just in case it's not real because it's that
Yeah.
egregious. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see, I guess. But yeah, it seemed yeah, if that is real, then that's not a pleasant screen to look at. But we'll see what happens. I'm sure that's something that they might quickly nip in the bud before it's out.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've seen that same thing, and it was beaten over, online, and it's just another aspect of the industry where I'd love to be a fly on the wall in these different studios, hearing like, is this all intentional from the devs creatively, like, hey, we want to do this, or is this kind of from parent companies above them going, hey, Fortnite's big, all these other like live service games are big, they have a ton of shit on the HUD or whatever, like they have all these aspects, all these mechanics, do that, and they go okay, and they're trying to make it work. Like I just would love, and it's stuff we'll never, most of the time we never hear about it, or if there's some kind of like leak, some people that have left the studio, then they talk about it 10 years later. But I just would love to hear, like, was this intentional all the way through from the company, or is this like they're being told they have to kind of fit in this box? It's just, I'd love to know.
Yeah, it's there's lots of decisions sometimes where you can't really understand the background to them, but I mean, again, sometimes it's just as simple as somebody just really believes in something and they manage to convince enough people, and it just gets through. But yeah, hopefully the kind of feedback from everybody will help them kind of steer that slightly. But yeah, I wouldn't. I honestly, I want to see it do well because I like Rocksteady, and even though
Yeah.
I haven't really played their games, I think that they have always been in that kind of like pantheon of very, very good developers. So hopefully, yeah, there'll be something there that people enjoy and it will do well. But it'll be one that I will not be adding to the backlog because I've got enough there.
Yeah. I hear you. I hear you, Callum. Well, let's move on to some of the news we got. Not a whole lot going on, but we'll start off with just a very happy story. It's been really awesome this first month here in the games industry. So we got mass layoffs are hitting the games industry. This week, Microsoft announced it is laying off 1,900 people across its Xbox, Activision, and ZeniMax teams. Amazon Games, Ubisoft, Epic Games were also part of this first initial, mass layoff in this month. This comes along as one of the biggest single layoff announcements in the industry this month, but not the only one, as layoffs have been announced across devs like Riot Games, People Can Fly, even industry side or adjacent stuff like Unity Software, Twitch, and many more. So that's nuts. And then I pulled this tweet, which has been circulating in various forms, but this is from Tammy and Hoka on Twitter. 10,500 game industry workers lost their jobs in 2023. And the games industry job losses announced in just January of this year are 5,600. So we've reached 53% of the layoffs from last year in just 1 month of this year, which is insane. And then tied to all this week was also Microsoft announcing that they've reached a value of $3 trillion, which is not easy to do as a company. It's like, I think Apple is the only one that's crossed that amount. So tied with them being hugely successful, they've also laid off a bunch of people at once. How do you feel about, you're in the industry? working in there. How do you feel about this when you hear this? You know, what's the vibe like, the mood? I can't be happy right now.
Yeah, I think it's obviously something that every company has to sort of keep their eye on. I think clearly it's all happening because of poor decision making, just in the kind of sector as a whole. I think across COVID and everything, and it's all sort of coming back to bite them now. But um, I think, and yeah, I don't know too much about the reasons from each studio, and obviously there's probably a very complicated economical explanation for kind of, and then I don't mean like a justification, but an explanation as to what went wrong, as to why this is happening. But I think all we can kind of hope is that whatever did go wrong maybe won't, or hopefully won't again, because it's kind of almost like a lesson for the people in the sector who did cause this kind of thing to happen. But yeah, I think the most annoying thing is like what you just said, is when companies announce all this money, or when you hear about big, chief executives earning these big bonus payoffs and everything, and then you also hear people getting laid off. It's frustrating, because at the end of the day, those people benefiting are the kind of ones who should be looking after those working for them, and there should have been a bit more foresight to a lot of these decisions to stop it from happening. But yeah, it's not good. And yeah, it's horrible, the amount of people, especially with the Activision Blizzard ones, that just turned up to work one day and found out that that's it. And people uproot and move over, from all over the world to move there for this job, and they get told that they're no longer working there. It's especially when you think about how visas work too. They're tied to the job and things. So
Yep.
yeah, it's awful. And yeah, I can't imagine it's going to ease up anytime soon. But hopefully it'll all be over soon, and we can start looking at a more positive industry.
Yeah, it's you mentioned a lot of these people finding out the day of, and that was exactly right. I was seeing Jason Schreier from Bloomberg News was reporting on this, and then he had noted that people were messaging him directly saying like, "Hey, am I part of it?" Like they're in this company and they're like, is my job okay?" Like they're asking him when they don't know within their actual company that are they tied to this layoff. It's just like insane to be told last. Yeah, and it's obviously it sucks across the board. And I have seen takes online, people trying to like frame, okay, like why is this happening? We did go through the lockdown and COVID, where a lot of these companies were staffing up increasingly because of just getting ready for everyone stuck at home, and then like a lot of these live service stuff being really profitable and just having to bulk up there. And so now that we've kind of crossed that, having to get rid of stuff that isn't working anymore, just like an excess amount of jobs, and there is stuff tied to that. We do have a crazy huge budgets for games now, and so when stuff doesn't work or doesn't hit whatever their plans are, their goals are, then there's also this where they have to cut across the board. And so I could see where like it all kind of leads up to this. It sucks, and to have such a huge amount right at the beginning of the year just optically doesn't look great. Like the industry isn't in a great space. But then you do still hear of all these little studios popping up. Like we're talking about Rocksteady, some of those original founders, they just announced a new studio, so they had left and they're starting something else. So it's like there's always these other side studios popping up. So it seems like hopefully there's places for people to go. It's just overall it is negative, and it looks negative. It's hard to not deny that.
Yeah, you never want sort of to see people lose their jobs, and I think the degree in which it's happening in this particular industry is alarming. And it's just difficult because I think everyone wants to know who is accountable for this and who kind of made these decisions that has caused this, but also who's accountable for the clear lacking communication, like you were saying, people being the last people to be told that they're losing their job. Like that's a
Right.
whole other thing as well, is because I saw like the Riot Games one, people getting like really good packages, which I think when if there are unfortunate times where people do need to be laid off, at least that's
Yep.
supporting them in the best way they can. But to hear that people aren't even being told, it's just there's at least the bare minimum that you should do. when laying people off, and doesn't seem like there's even that kind of care given some of these studios.
Yeah, it's nuts. We'll see, the rest of the month. We still got a couple of days left. We'll see how
Yeah,
high this thing will rise in the first
yeah,
month of January. But yeah, and I think of you, Cal, we got to keep you working. We got to keep your job safe. So I'm thinking if you can store all the passwords you can, like on a thumb drive like on a necklace. So I'm walking to work, like,
yeah.
hey, if I go down, I'm taking this with me. Like you need to have some security.
Oh, it's all right. Don't worry. Computers are always breaking, so I'll be fine. I think,
There you go.
especially computers that make games, they seem to break more than any others that I've ever seen. So
That's
yeah,
good.
I should be all right.
Nice. Well, kick a few for me while you're walking around.
Yeah.
All right, Cal, move on to our next one. We had Last of Us 2 PS5 Remaster launched last week. So the recently released PS5 remaster for Last of Us 2 includes director and cast commentary. This is just a little blurb that came out this week. During that, it's revealed Naughty Dog originally planned for Ellie to go through with killing Abby at the game's conclusion. I guess spoilers. I should have mentioned that. This game is old enough, I think, in my mind. But the studio ultimately decided against it as it would have made Last of Us 2 a very different game. So, Callum, they thought about changing that ending or having a different ending altogether. Did you? This reminds me, I take you didn't jump into this Last of Us 2 remastered
I
edition this
didn't.
week.
I didn't. It actually kind of passed me by a little bit. I knew it was coming, but I didn't realize it was sort of out when it came out.
Yeah.
I'd like to play it at some point, I think, but I jumped the gun a little early when I bought the Last of Us 1 remake, so I'm going to try and not do the same thing here and just kind of wait until the time's right and grab it probably. But um, yeah, interesting about the ending. I actually saw because you posted the our Last of Us 2 spoiler cast
Yeah.
again recently, and I'd sort of watched like a couple of minutes of that, and I like I was saying I hated the ending,
You know what?
and it was quite.
Yeah, I posted it again because I went through and like a madman. I re-listened to the whole thing. I never do that for
Mm,
any of our stuff because I hate listening to myself talk. But I listened to the whole thing and I was like, I got to play this game again. And it was just a cool conversation. But yeah, it was a whole ride where we were talking about it. You were sort of
mm,
negative, but not. But
mm.
you know, listen to it.
Yeah,
It was like
yeah,
two
yeah,
fucking hours. But
yeah.
yeah, we changed kind of our opinion, or we have this
Mm.
various opinions, and we talk about the ending and how. But
Yeah,
this is an
and
idea
and
they had.
I think it was interesting because I kind of I didn't forget, but it was kind of interesting to see me so soon after playing it and kind of how I felt about it compared to how I feel about it now as it's kind of set. And I went back to it probably about a year ago and did another playthrough and cleaned up the trophies and everything. And um, yeah, I definitely feel less negative about the ending now, especially now with the kind of information that there's probably going to be a third one. I think at the time we were all under the assumption that that was it for like completely
Yeah,
for
they
The
were
Last
saying
of Us.
stuff like, "This is
Yeah.
it."
And I think, and also just because it is such an emotionally investing game, when you don't get that kind of payoff at the end, it does feel like a betrayal. But then obviously after a while, you're just like, what am I talking about? Like it's not real kind of thing. And so yeah, it was interesting to see that and see how my thoughts have changed as kind of time's gone on. I've kind of grown less attached to that experience. But yeah, I'd like to play again. It's just it is. I do still have that thing about it though, where I it's just such a dark game. Like it's not one of those games where it's almost like a horror game. That's
Yeah.
you don't necessarily go, oh, I'm going to go play this really scary game that I've already completed. Like you kind of suffer through it, and then that's part of the uh, you know intrigue of playing horror games that you suffer through it, complete it, and then you're like, yes, I did it. I persevered. And I kind of get that same feeling with Last of Us 2 just because it's so horrible. Not because it's scary, just it's so dreary and
Yeah.
depressing. So it's kind of like an undertaking to even go back into it, especially after already knowing what happened. So I'd like to get back to it, but yeah, maybe just give it a bit more time. Maybe use it as like a bumper to the series. So maybe later in the year or something. But yeah, amazing game, and yeah, excited to see it in its glory on PS5.
Yeah, and I did get the it's like a $10 upgrade if
Mm.
you own the PS4 version of it, and I played I actually skipped the campaign because I feel like I've played through it recently
Yep.
as well. But started playing some of the survival mode,
Mm.
um, the roguelike mode. I forget what it's called, but it's pretty interesting. It's cool. It's just like the combat, loop, which is fun, and just going through that and finding various enemies. And I realize how just like rusty I am at that game and just trying to get back into maneuvering around. But that part is cool, like earning different stuff. There's different skins. It's like it's fun, but it wasn't enough to like keep me. I just played for a bit and it's like, okay, moving on. But also, if you're getting this Last of Us PS5 remaster in quotes for this like next gen experience, it's if you have the PS5, there was an update on PS5 for this game a year ago or so. If you
Yeah.
have that, it's basically the same thing. It's like it looks the same. It's
Oh,
slightly
okay.
better texture. It's like, but it's
Yeah.
not like going from Last of Us 1 to that PS5 remaster. It's not like built from the ground up. It's just kind of
Yeah.
it's basically like if you go through Digital Foundry did a breakdown, it's the exact same looking kind of PS5
Yeah.
update. So, but it's still a beautiful game. It's just not gonna blow your top off.
Yeah. 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 I'd like to give it another go, but yeah, just still mourning, I think.
Yes, I understand. I understand. Now, part of this little announcement, so Naughty Dog has announced it's making a documentary for The Last of Us 2 titled Grounded 2, making The Last of Us Part 2. A lot of twos in that sense. Will debut next week on the 2 of February, 2024. So a lot of twos coming up soon.
2024.
Yep. I know they did this grounded thing for the first Last of Us, and it was really cool. So I'm excited to see. I don't know why they're waiting so long. Like I thought, we'd have this by now, or maybe there's something you can unlock playing the game. You can unlock the trailer, like you can watch the trailer for this in the game, which I guess is neat. But I want to see this, so it's coming out soon.
Yeah, I loved the first one. So it'd be really cool to see this one. I wonder if they'll touch on the leak as well, and if they have any kind of. I doubt they will, but
Maybe.
If they do, that could be quite interesting. But yeah, I'll definitely catch that.
Now we got closing up our Last of Us talk. We got some updates on season 2 of the Last of Us HBO series. This is from Benji Sales on Twitter. Director's list for the Last of Us season 2 revealed. So they got returning Neil Druckmann is coming back, Craig Mazin, Peter Hoare, and some new additions are Mark Mylod from Succession, which is a huge show, Nina Lopez Corrado from Perry Mason, Stephen Williams from the Watchmen TV series, and Katie Heron from the Loki TV show. So they're getting these are top-notch, shows. Some of these directors I'm not familiar with, but these are big shows that they're getting directors from. So should be exciting.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it sounds like maybe they'll have different directors for different episodes, maybe, because that's quite a lot of
Yeah.
directors.
They did that in the last season too.
Oh, cool. Yeah, yeah. I like that. I always like. I think it was. I can't remember what series it was now, but there are a few series that have that where you can it really benefits the series having these different directors. I think The Walking Dead did it for a little bit back when it was decent.
Yeah.
Because I know that The Walking Dead had like Frank Darabont, didn't it? The guy who did like Shawshank Redemption and stuff. He did like series 1,
really?
and then he was too expensive, so they axed him, and we all know what happened from there with The Walking Dead. So
Yeah.
but yeah, it's not. I like it when you do have these kind of different directors for different episodes.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, and that's filming this year. So I mean, it's gonna be a good while, but before we see anything, but I'm excited. All right, Callum, moving on. We got some PSVR 2 sort of news. So MetaQuest significantly outsold PSVR 2 in holiday 2023. This is from PlayStationLifestyle.net. Go down this rabbit hole here. According to the data available, which focuses solely on Amazon sales since PSVR 2 is sold via PlayStation Direct, has not been made public. So this is just kind of focusing on Amazon sales. For every one box of PSVR 2 moved, the Quest sold more than 30 units between November 16, 2023 to January 16, 2024. So the holiday season, basically. MetaQuest 2 and 3 sold 320,000 units. Whereas the PSVR 2 sold around 10,500 units. PSVR 2 sales are further damaged by its lack of backwards compatibility. So it's we're coming up on a year since this PSVR 2 launched in February 22nd of last year. If we're to follow, if this data it doesn't encompass everything, but if it's sort of a feel for how this thing is selling, how do you feel about, as we get closer to a year now of the PSVR 2, how do you feel about the sales, and if Sony is going to keep supporting this thing? What do you think?
It's not very good. That's the first time I've seen sort of how many it's actually sold, but yeah, it's being rather
Yeah, and I have an update on
destroyed
that.
by.
So Sony
Yeah,
confirmed in March 2023 that the PSVR 2 sold 600,000 units in its first 6 weeks since launch. Now, the original PSVR had sold around 5 million lifetime units. It sold about 1 million units in its first 5 months. So it seems like PSVR 2 is trailing a little bit behind by like 400,000 ish units. But Sony also doesn't release a lot of info, and I think it's because it's maybe not doing
yeah,
the
not doing
hottest
very
right
well.
now.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's also good. It's interesting to see how many MetaQuests have sold as well, because that's quite a lot.
Yeah.
I think it's almost like you've got one thing doing really badly and then one thing doing really well. So like the difference is even bigger. But that's interesting. Yeah, I'm always curious as to where how big VR is, and it clearly is still going pretty strong. I've been considering digging my MetaQuest out. With all these sort of different games that have been coming out recently, mainly that Assassin's Creed one and that
Yeah.
what's that D&D kind of one? I can't remember the name, but that
Oh,
looked
it's like
pretty
something
cool
with
as
the
well.
blade. I wanted. It's got really good
Yeah,
reviews.
yeah, that looked really cool as well. But I think the main thing with PSVR 2, which we said before, is there's no reason really to get one, especially for the price.
Yeah, so it's
Because I'm pretty sure the
still
Quest is significantly cheaper as
yeah.
well.
Yeah, Quest 2,
Um,
Quest 3 rather, the newest one. That one's around $400 US.
mm,
It's a bit more advanced. And Quest 2 I've seen drop to like 250. Now
yeah,
the PSVR 2 is still at 550 in the US. So
yeah,
although one of the things I was thinking as we reach the year, birthday of this thing, do we see a price drop? I think it desperately needs a price drop.
yeah, it definitely does. But there's just nothing selling it to me. I can't, apart from Horizon, which does look cool, but I can't think of. You don't have these like games that are really trying to push, like that. Is it Asgard's Wrath or something like that?
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, like these games that are really pushing it, like that Assassin's Creed one, and these games that are like and like Half-Life Alyx, which you can obviously play on a Quest if you have a PC.
Yep.
But that not being on PSVR 2 is strange as well. But yeah, it's a shame. I liked the first PSVR headset. That was kind of my like foray into VR. But so it's a shame to see the second one kind of not doing too.
Yeah, and it's crazy because I mean the PS5 we see new stuff every month. It's selling incredibly well. It's like the biggest selling console right now, aside from like the Switch, which is on its tail end. But PSVR or PS5 is crazy successful right now. So they have that install base, but it's just like you're asking people to drop 400, almost $500 for a PS5, and then to spend another 500 for a PSVR 2. It's like if that was cheaper, I think it'd be less of an issue for people to jump in. Then you have that install base that's already there. But with a MetaQuest, whatever the heck, it's way cheaper, and it's like that's all you need. You don't need another piece of hardware to run it. So it's just it's
And it
got
runs
to be
so well.
tough.
Like the Quest 2 is so. All the games I've ran on it. I mean, the Resident Evil 4, not the remake
Right.
VR, but the original VR one. Like Randomate, and I know Resi 4 is an old game, but it's quite a complicated game to put into VR in the way that they did, and for it to run the way it does completely wirelessly, like on its own,
Yep.
it's great. And to know that you can now get a Quest 3, which is still cheaper than the PSVR 2, um, it's pretty crazy. And I think one thing as well, and we'll probably talk a little bit about the Portal later because that's where I've been playing Gravity Rush. But seeing how good streaming's getting, I would assume the Quest 3 would probably a lot of its advances would also probably be in its like connectivity
Hmm.
qualities, because I know that was always a bit of a downfall with the Quest. Um, so if that can work with streaming, like getting a Quest 3 streaming Half-Life Alyx through your PC, it's I think that definitely sounds like the Quest currently just has the kind of VR market on lock. Really, I could be
Yeah.
wrong, but I just feel like what they're offering can't be beaten, and it's now difficult to compete with that because they've kind of cemented themselves into that position. So yeah, I like that PlayStation have tried and they're sticking with it, and they've made clearly a quality device, and they've backed it with a quality game in Horizon. But it's just not enough. I don't think. I think the Quest is just dominating, and I think the fact we're seeing these really cool new VR games coming out on Quest, it's just not helping the PSVR because it's more expensive, and there isn't really a reason to play those games on it.
Yeah, and one thing I forgot that was announced with PSVR 2 is not backwards compatible. So you have to wait for a lot of
Right.
these devs to release a sequel version for the PSVR 2, and your
Mhm.
whole backlog that you spent all this time, building, if you were to upgrade or adopt to PSVR 2, is not there. It's just, and that's kind of Sony, how they do things, where a lot of their stuff isn't, I wouldn't say consumer friendly, but it's just not like compatible with a lot of stuff
Mm.
beyond the PlayStation
Yeah.
ecosystem. You mentioned the Portal, it's just for the streaming for PS5. You can't do it with your PC. With PSVR 2 and the original PSVR, you can't connect to PC, which I think a lot of these devices that are successful are doing. They're
Mm.
trying to just spread their tendrils and to connect to everything to help you justify, yeah, I'll buy that because I can play it on this thing, that thing, and I can
Yeah.
play it on my PSVR if I want
But
as well.
do you think there's even anything that could happen now that would even make people want to get the VR2? I think obviously a big price drop would be needed, because even if you only have a PS5 and you're thinking getting a VR headset, what reason is there to get the PSVR2 over a Quest? Because all the games you can play on your VR2 pretty much are on the Quest aside, and I don't think the ones that are exclusive to the PSVR2 are enough to
Sure.
kind of warrant the extra, what is it, like $250 on top
Yeah.
of the Quest if you want one of those. Even more if you're happy for a Quest 2. So yeah, I just don't see there being any scenario where the PSVR 2 is the better option. Like it's not even like, oh well, if you've got a PS5, then the PSVR 2 is clearly the better option because of that. There's just no reason you can give, which is probably why it's doing so badly in comparison to the Quest.
Yeah, it's tough where Sony's really tackling the almost like the higher end enthusiasts with VR who want the best possible experience. With PSVR 2, a lot of the reviews were positive on the quality of the lenses, of the fidelity of the screen. It's like it's really advanced hardware. But then you also need the PS5. So you're looking at, like, say, just ballparking like $1,000 to jump into this
Mhm.
higher end VR experience, when Facebook and Meta are looking at something down the middle where it's like the hardware is good enough and actually pretty awesome, at times, especially with the newer one, but it's cheap and it's
Mhm.
accessible. And they're going these two different routes. But I would argue the group of people that are looking for the highest fidelity VR experience are smaller than like mostly everyone who just wants to try it, jump in. It's a Christmas gift kind of thing. Like you'd get that with the Quest, not so much with the PSVR 2.
Mhm.
So I'm assuming they're comfortable with that. They know that. They have, very smart people who are looking at just the trends of stuff and how well it's going to sell beforehand. So they're taking this different approach. I just don't know how long they can keep doing that. And you're right, where it's like there isn't a lot to justify jumping in because the first party stuff isn't as strong. It's not worth it. There's games that I would argue they should have on there, like Alex, Half-Life
Mhm.
Alex. That's not. It's so. What are their? I want to know what their plans are. I would love to see, like, if they were to really be dedicated to this huge price drop, and also we're going to do a PlayStation Direct looking at the next year. We're securing all these first party titles and like making these big deals with devs to like have these games here. Unless they do that, it's like they're just going to let this thing go the way of the Vita.
I've just seen as well that Asgard's Wrath 2, so that's that game
Yeah,
that's supposed to be really, really good. They got a 93 on Metacritic,
yeah, it's super high. I think
which
IGN
is,
gave it a 10 too.
yeah, they did, yeah. And that's not even on PlayStation VR. It's only on MetaQuest.
No.
So that's like one of the biggest VR games at the moment. Arguably up there with Half-Life Alex, and both of those games, in some way you can play on the Quest. Half-Life Alex, you need a PC of some kind, but neither of them you can play on the PlayStation
Right.
VR, which is it's just so incredible that I can't even think of anything that. What even is PSVR 2 exclusive except from Horizon? Is the RE4 remake?
You have that. I think that is still locked into, just like not Village, the one before that was also locked to
7,
PSVR.
yeah.
Yeah. So they do have that deal with Capcom for that.
Okay, that's
But
decent. That is
yeah,
decent, but still not enough, I don't think.
no, it's tough. And it's just,
And I assume that'll probably be timed, considering the original Resident Evil 4 um, is on the Quest. Because I think Resident Evil 7 is different, where that came out on the PSVR 1, which no VR headset plays like that anymore. Yeah,
mm,
that was back when PlayStation were like, oh, you sit with it on your head, but you use your controller still. So Resi 7, you still moved with your analog sticks and
Yeah.
pressed R1 to shoot and all this. But so that's harder to kind of port and probably not worth porting. Although I don't even know that maybe they have already ported it. I could be talking rubbish.
I don't think so. I think that's one that's it's
um,
always surprising that if you look into it, it's like it's still locked to PSVR.
right. But something like Resident Evil 4 remake that is like transferable to the Quest, no problems, because it uses the same control scheme. So yeah, I mean, they need to do something with it, but whether or not they can even be asked,
Yeah, that's
I
another one
really
of those
don't know.
fly in the wall situations with like, what are you guys' plans? I want to know what's being done behind the scenes. What are you trying to do? Is it one guy who's like in charge of all this, and he's like, I don't know, I'm swamped with all these
Oh mate,
decisions.
yeah. So I'm just looking at this. Asgard's Wrath looks great. I'm gonna need to play this, I think.
Yeah.
And the fact it's on the Quest 2 is, I mean, it might be a bit janky, but I think you kind of expect jank with VR. And I think because I don't know how good the Quest 3 is, I don't know how good like the PSVR 2 is. That's the thing as well. I'm sure the PSVR 2 is great, like quality wise, but I don't think it matters in VR. I don't think we're kind of at that stage yet where we kind of have that many VR connoisseurs that are like,
right.
oh, you know, I don't think graphics has ever been a conversation that's come up in VR discussions from what I've seen. I mean, if you look at the most popular VR games, like that VR chat, I mean, it looks like shit.
Yeah, they're all shit. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's really about, can you fine tune the head movement where I don't feel sick? Yeah. Can you make me feel like I'm not thinking about VR?
Yeah.
If you can nail that, then the quality of the graphics doesn't matter.
Can you buy me a house that has enough room to play it?
Right.
You know, can you do all these things? But no, yeah, I just don't think. I don't know why they were like, oh, we need to make this like a really high quality VR headset with hardly any games, and it's really, really expensive. It just doesn't.
Yeah,
make sense
I don't know. It's tough, and I'm very curious because there's a lot of rumors circulating lately of some kind of PS Direct that's coming soon. I'm hoping as we reach the year point of the PSVR 2, maybe it's time to announce some stuff for the next year, price drop, what have you. So we'll see. But I just saw that news with the PSVR 2, and it's just not looking great.
It's inspired me. Next time I talk to you, I'm going to be a VR enthusiast.
Yeah. Okay.
Nice. I'll have my like Quest 2 like balancing on my head,
right?
Like sunglasses.
Or I have a Quest. If we could meet somehow, do the podcast in VR. There we go.
We'll run into some. Yeah, but we'll end up running into some pedophiles or something on. Yeah. Is it VR chat or whatever it's called?
Well, if they'll pay my bills, I guess I'll be
groomed. I don't want to be groomed. I don't want to be groomed.
Yeah, I understand, Callum. All right, we'll move on here. Rumor time. We got Death Stranding 2 update and Until Dawn remastered in the works. So here's a tweet here pulled up from Okami13 _ on Twitter. It's a huge outlet on Twitter. Death Stranding 2 is reportedly getting an official update in the next 2 weeks. Dia Labs also reports that Until Dawn is coming to PS5 and PC. Highly likely we're getting a state of play soon, in my opinion. So a lot of media outlets have been covering the rumors of an Until Dawn PS5 remaster edition and PC version port coming out, and then Death Stranding 2 update would be nice. But what do you think about possibly these things happening? How do you feel about Until Dawn getting some PC love and coming back to PS5?
Yeah, I think it's unexpected, but I really like Until Dawn. I think it's definitely Supermassive's best game. I haven't played the Dark Pictures, but I watched my sister play through.
They made a bunch.
Yeah, and the one I saw her play through did not seem very good. And I've heard mostly negative things about the others. I'm sure they're fun just because of the kind of games they are, and I think that they still need to be credited with, nailing that kind of horror movie interactive kind of feel. And funnily enough, I think the mixed reception that each one's getting is the kind of mixed reception you get with horror movies. So you almost want to take that, in that way, because what horror movie have you sat down and gone, I really want to watch this, crappy horror movie, and you see the reviews and they're all terrible, and it kind of makes you want to watch it more, and then you watch it and it's terrible, but you still loved it. So it could be the case with the newer ones, but I'm not sure. But yeah, Until Dawn was really, really cool. I don't know whether I'll play it again because I'm a bit of a scaredy cat, but it was a really, really cool game and did a lot of unique and interesting things. So But I remember it being pretty big when it came out, so I don't know who. But was it PS4 only or something like that?
I want to say PS4 only.
Yeah, but either way, I remember it being played by pretty much everyone I know who are in some way into games. It kind of like united a lot of different kind of gamers, I think, to play. And so it'll be interesting to see how it does when it comes back, to see if there is anyone new out there who hasn't experienced it before.
Yeah, and this is a game that lends itself really well to like streamers, people on Twitch, YouTube, with the choices you can make, with having the chat involved and the campiness of this horror movie basically you're playing. So it's a great time for it to come back. And then tied with that is this from the Game Awards Twitter account. PlayStation Productions is set to make an R-rated Until Dawn movie with David F. Sandberg, director of Shazam, based on the PlayStation game starring Hayden Panettiere and Rami Malek. No word on if these actors will reprise their roles. So Sony's, as they've been really working hard on getting a lot of these properties to movies or TV shows. They're working on an Until Dawn movie.
Yeah, nice. I think obviously it lends well to that. Going back to what you said about it's a good game for streaming. How long do you think it'll take for a streamer to play it, and then you have to like donate money depending what choice, and then whoever donate, yeah,
I get paid. I mean, do what you gotta do,
Yeah, and then they'll see whoever donates the most. That's the choice they make.
Right.
I'm sure that definitely won't happen.
I want to do that with the podcast. If you want to have some kind of hot take that I say online and give me $5, I'll do it. Nice. Yeah, I need to give this game another shot. Originally, when I played it, I understand. Obviously, it's like a horror trope kind of thing. It's playing off of that. It was so cheesy to me that I was getting frustrated. But I need to lean into that because that's the whole point of it. Some of the decisions, the conversations, the characters were just like cringy to me. But as I look back at it, it's like I understand that's the whole fucking point. So I need to jump in hard and play this again. I didn't give it a fair shake.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a game that maybe was great at the time it came out, and now going back to it might be a little less sort of fun. But yeah, I probably won't go back to it, but it's interesting just to see it kind of revived in some way, because it was a game that at one point I did really enjoy.
Now, how do you feel about some Death Stranding 2 news? Do you think it's about time? So far, we've had some images, a very short trailer I know is online. Do you think we'll get an update on that soon?
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, I never played Death Stranding, and I
At
really
all?
want to. No, not at all.
What the heck?
So I do want to play it, and I think maybe waiting to see when Death Stranding 2 is coming would be a good time to kind of try and play it just before then. But yeah, because I kind of want to play the first one, I'm interested in the second one now, if that makes sense. So, and I'm sure that nothing can be spoiled because the trailers just are the weirdest fever dream scenes, so it doesn't really matter. But it looks cool. Some of the, I can't remember the character's name from the first Death Stranding 2 trailer. What did he look like? But I remember him looking really cool.
There's like Troy Baker's in it. He has like a gold mask. There's Michael Madsen's in it.
I think it was the Troy Baker character. Let me see.
And everyone's called like Dark Man, Beer Man. Like everyone has a man tied to their name. It's very...
Oh yeah. He had the red mask on. That's a weird tentacle. Oh yeah, and the guitar. That was it. It's so weird.
Yes, I'm surprised you haven't played this, because now it's on, like, there's a PS5 update. It's on PC.
That's what kind of put it back on my horizon, was when I first started seeing it on like Game Pass and PlayStation. But I've just never, because I know it needs a lot of time. So at least whilst I'm playing Baldur's Gate 3, I definitely can't. But I'm thinking with Baldur's Gate 3, I'm realizing it's quite nice having, because I like playing big games, but I try and avoid them because I feel like they take up too much of my time. But with Baldur's Gate 3, I've been kind of enjoying putting in like an hour or two here or there. And with the Portal, I feel like Death Stranding might be a good like lie in bed and play on the Portal every night kind of game. So but yeah, we'll see. It's definitely a game I will play before the second one comes out.
I loved it. I just loved every aspect of the mechanics of, you're carrying weight and you have to navigate how you're moving, and just like the risk reward of going back for something else versus how much stuff you're carrying at the time. the super weird monsters that you're fighting, the characters that make no sense. It's very Kojima. I love it. I did not. I as much as I loved the game, I equally disliked the ending. And so eventually, when you play the game, I want to see what you think of that,
Mm.
how they handled the end. But I'm still on board for it.
If I even know what happens at the end, that is.
No, I don't. It's just the way that they. I play the game. I have no idea what happened, and the
I
ending
see.
is the same.
It's more you need somebody to help understand what's happened, is it?
Unless it's Kojima telling you, it's like no one's gonna understand what the heck's going on. It's just very symbolic, and but
Hey, you
still, great
underestimate me.
game.
I've played the Kingdom Hearts games.
Yeah,
I can weasel through some messed up Japanese narrative. Don't you worry.
interesting. Okay, you're the right person then. Awesome, Callum. Well, yep, we got maybe some news coming to for Death Stranding sequel. That'd be awesome. But what I love about this rumor also tied to that is a PS Direct. I'm hoping we get one of those soon too. I think it's time to show us what's in the works for 2024 and the next year. So we'll see if that gets announced at any point. Now moving on, we got PlayStation 5 update blocks Cronus Zen cheat devices. This is from TheVerge.com. The PS5's latest update blocks players from using the Cronus Zen, a device cheaters use to get an unfair advantage in first-person shooters and other games. A notice on the Cronus website warns players that the update for the PS5 no longer allows the Cronus Zen to connect to the console. Although Cronus bills the device as a controller emulator, cheaters have been using it to perform all sorts of digital tweaks to their controllers, like reducing recoil and setting macros. Some players use a keyboard and mouse also to employ the Cronus Zen to trick their console into thinking they're using a controller for the benefit of their aim and movement abilities. Callum, have you ever cheated in a multiplayer game? Do you have any interest in cheating in a game like this?
Actually, I shake my head, but I have
Hmm.
on. Well, I've got two things actually. The first one is I have a VAC ban on my Steam account.
What is that?
In fact, let me bring it up. It says a Valve anti-cheat. Because it says how many days ago I got it, and it's very long. But basically that wasn't me. I know it sounds like a really obvious thing
Yeah.
to say, but my friend like always wanted to play Counter-Strike, and he didn't have a PC, and I was living with him at the time, and I just said, look, log into my Steam, I've got Counter-Strike, you can play as much as you want. And he didn't tell me what happened, and I wasn't going to pry, I didn't want to embarrass him, but
Okay.
yeah, he got me a VAC ban on my account,
What the
which will show on my account forever, and
Whoa.
probably has some kind of repercussions with Valve games. I don't even know if I can play Counter-Strike ever again. Not that I ever really played it anyway. Yeah, so 2,531 days I got a VAC ban.
Is that like 20 years? It was
No,
365 days.
it was 2,531 days ago that it happened. So
Oh,
that the
I thought it
ban
was banned for that.
happened.
Okay.
So I mean, not that far from 10 years, maybe like 7 years ago.
Jeez.
But yeah, so that's on there forever. Now
Interesting.
it's like I'm on some kind of register,
Yeah.
which I wasn't even involved in. But yeah, so there's that, and Battlefield 3, when that kind of started getting into obscurity and like well into maybe when Battlefield like 1 was out. Yeah, me and my friend would go on PC and we'd join some servers and you download an aimbot and you use an aimbot tool because the servers would go on. It was just weird people who were trying to still play Battlefield 3. So
Just
yeah,
ruining
there was
your day.
a bit of aimbotting going on there. But other than that, like I don't really play multiplayer games anymore. So I know what this Kronos thing is just because I've had people, like my friends who play multiplayer games talk about them before. Normally when they're like crying because they're getting killed on some game. But yeah, so I know what they are, and it just kind of seems like this probably should have been done a long time ago, from what I understand.
Yeah. Interesting. No, that's wild because the only time I've really done it is with this is maybe 2-3 years ago. The first time Call of Duty came to mobile. I'd seen, I think it was like PC Gamer, even like they were the ones that gave me the idea to do it. And like there was an instruction how to do it, but it was, you can basically download a thing that makes your computer an Android phone. And so you can download the game, which was free, and then play your mouse and keyboard. versus people that are actually in the game using touchscreen control, so they're like terrible, and I'm just headshotting everyone. And it was fun for like 5 minutes, and you're like, oh, this is insanely easy, and then I just stopped doing it. But yeah, it was that was the only time I dabbled in that. But it's
Did you come across anyone else doing the same thing?
I don't think so. It's just just like 8-year-olds crying at me because I'm winning. But it was one of those things where it's like you're trolling. It's fun for about 5 seconds, and then you're like, okay, there's no challenge. This is not. But there's people that dedicate. This is their whole thing. Is cheating forever, and I'm like, how is that fun to you? It's like there's no challenge anymore. There's no competition.
Yeah, it's just weird. I think, I don't get it. I mean, people just do weird things. I mean, I'd get it if they were like developing the tool themselves and doing it more as like a hobbyist kind of thing. Like, oh, can I break this game? But people just download stuff, whack it on a USB or whatever it is you do nowadays to do this. But it's weird, and it's one reason, or it's tied to one reason why I don't like playing multiplayer games anymore, and it's because the people who moan constantly about like how this person who killed you is hacking or like your game's lagging. Sometimes I'll join like a party with some guys I know that play PlayStation, and it's just full of them like crying and moaning, and it's just like insufferable. It's just one thing about multiplayer games I just can't deal with. So maybe that's why they do it, to make people do that, and they find it funny.
Yeah, it's strange. The stuff you mentioned right now, that's my nephews, and they're like 12 years old. That's what they do.
Yeah. I used to hear my little brother just screaming like it is that little high pitched voice, like playing Fortnite or whatever. And it's just
that's the kids these days, man. All right, Kyle, moving on. We got our last bit here. Not a lot that's happened recently, but so we got Horizon Forbidden West Complete Edition comes to PC on March 21st. It includes the Burning Shores expansion for about $60 US. Cal, you mentioned you didn't play the Burning Shores. Do you think you'll jump into the PC version and play the DLC with this?
I need to play the bloody PS5 version first. I think I just need to get back to that game. I think I maybe got like 10 hours into Forbidden West, and then for whatever reason just stopped playing it. But I think if I remember correctly, there was something that happened in the story that I wasn't too fond of, and it just kind of put me off a little bit. But I really want to go back to it. But yeah, it's cool to see that it's coming to PC, because the first one's on PC. So I guess that kind of like completes that. And the fact it's all complete means people have been waiting for it are going to get all the content all at once, which is the annoying thing about DLC, is that it usually comes out too late. So by the time it's out, you're already done with the game. So that'd be a cool little package for those who have been waiting for it.
I feel like you're a big PS Portal fan. This could be a good Portal game because you're sitting around. It's not as important where it's like you need that one for one. It's like your platforming and stuff. Like there's enough of that. There's less of that delay where it's like it could be fine and you're playing at on your bed.
Yeah, I mean, for games like Horizon, I think I'd probably like to play it mainly on TV, just because I've got a nice OLED TV, and I think that would look really good on there. But certainly for games like this, when if it's like, oh, I need to clean up this area of the map, like I'll be like, oh, I'll just do that in bed tonight on the Portal or something. So it could definitely be a good hybrid game, that and sort of other open world games like it. But I need to get back to it, just because it's such a massive game that I haven't played. And same with God of War Ragnarok as well. Both games I need to get to.
Yep, you got to play them. They're awesome. They are awesome. Awesome, Cal. We'll end the show and the PlayStation Book Club there for the week. You can catch us online. I know you're Bear Monroe on Twitter. You can keep track of us on Twitter as well at Plastic Art Pod. But we'll end it there for the week. Callum, if you'll give everyone a big kiss, good night.
Good night.
Okay, let's go.